The consequences of the conflict in the Middle East are still difficult to precisely predict. It seems to me that those involved in the conflict cannot predict any.
One narrow stretch of water, just 33 kilometers wide at its tightest point, now sits at the center of a global power struggle. The Strait of Hormuz carries nearly 20% of the world's oil. Every day, massive tankers pass through it, fueling economies from Asia to Europe. But today, that flow is under threat, and the consequences are already being felt across the world. Tensions exploded in early 2026 when the United States, alongside Israel, launched major strikes targeting Iran's military and nuclear infrastructure. Iran didn't just respond, it escalated. Missiles were launched. Drones filled the skies. But the most strategic move wasn't in the air or on land. It was at sea. Iran turned the Strait of Hormuz into a pressure point. Shipping routes were disrupted. Oil tankers hesitated to pass. Insurance costs skyrocketed. Within days, global energy markets were thrown into chaos. Oil prices surged, and fears of a wider economic shock began spreading. What makes this moment different is how Iran is leveraging geography as a weapon. It doesn't need a nuclear bomb to exert global influence. Control over Hormuz gives it the ability to squeeze the world's energy supply in real time. And this is where Russia enters the picture. Russia is not directly fighting in this conflict, but it doesn't need to. Behind the scenes, it has positioned itself as a strategic backer of Iran sharing intelligence, offering diplomatic alternatives and quietly benefiting from rising oil prices. Every disruption in the Gulf pushes energy prices higher, strengthening Russia's economic position while distracting the West from other fronts like Ukraine. This is not a coincidence. It's a calculated shift in global power dynamics. Meanwhile, the United States is facing a difficult balancing act. On one hand, it must ensure that global shipping lanes remain open. On the other, it is trying to contain Iran's growing nuclear ambitions. Military presence in the region has increased, with naval forces deployed to secure the strait and deter further attacks. But every move comes with risk. A direct confrontation could spiral into a full-scale regional war. And with so many actors involved, state and non-state alike, the margin for error is dangerously thin. Hovering over all of this is the nuclear question. Iran insists its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes. But enrichment levels and geopolitical tensions tell a more complicated story. The United States has pushed for strict limitations, while diplomatic solutions remain fragile at best. Russia even proposed taking control of Iran's enriched uranium as part of a deal, but that proposal was rejected. So the standoff continues. And while world leaders argue, the global economy is already.
Во время Второй мировой войны США разместили в Гренландии военные базы для защиты от захвата ее нацистами. А после окончания войны Штаты предложили Дании выкупить эти острова. Совсем недавно, по меркам мировой истории. Словом, речь идет о серьезных планах с американской стороны в отношении Гренландии.
Feeling the strain. Oil prices are volatile. Supply chains are under pressure. Countries heavily dependent on Gulf energy, especially in Asia, are watching closely, knowing that any prolonged disruption could trigger a wider financial crisis. This isn't just a regional conflict anymore. It's a global stress test. Because the Strait of Hormuz connects more than just oil routes, it connects the strategic interests of the world's most powerful nations. The United States wants stability and control. Iran wants leverage and security. Russia wants influence and advantage. And right now, all three are locked in a dangerous game. What happens next could go in several directions.
Почти 2 миллиона человек, выходцев из бывшего Советского Союза и Российской Федерации. Это почти русскоговорящая страна сегодня. Вот. И мы, безусловно, всегда в новейшей российской истории учитываем этот фактор. Это первое. Второе. У нас традиция.
There could be a fragile compromise where tensions remain high, but the flow of oil continues. Or the situation could escalate into open conflict, shutting down the strait entirely and sending shockwaves through the global economy. There's also the possibility of a nuclear breakthrough or breakdown that reshapes the balance of power in the Middle East. None of these outcomes are distant possibilities. They are all on the table. Because this crisis isn't just about who controls a narrow waterway. It's about who controls the future of global power. And right now, that future is hanging by a thread.